Today, in the Sisteration Room, our guest Miguel honors his mentor, Jose Lazarus Munier, aka Raze, while serving his 17-and-a-half-year prison sentence in a federal prison. We will meet Raze today by telephone from a federal prison. Miguel is supported here today in the Sisteration Room by his fiancée Gigi and his aunt and author Liz Doyle, who cared for him when he was young. She shares an excerpt from her book and a message about our beloved Fat
So,
Joe.
Ray's meant a lot to you, and he's been in for about how long?
30 years.
About 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So we're looking at, talk about second chances, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
So we feel like Ray's deserves a second chance.
Most definitely.
What about this Pinkerton theory, man?
It's
This Pinkerton theory of liability.
it's crazy that how
Who came up with this?
I don't even know. I ain't even gonna tell you no lie. It's how the feds, they just use anything to get people with the RICO and things like that. They just incarcerate people, mass incarceration, so they can constantly fill the jail systems, prison systems, to keep impoverished people down and keep people like us that don't have enough mothers and fathers, and no
Don't have the money
guidance.
to
Yeah,
fight.
yeah, no money to fight. They get the good lawyers, and people would make mistakes, and they just throw them in there and forget about them and leave
Yeah.
them in there. And now it's a perpetual cycle.
Liz.
Yes.
So you are a friend of Ray's
Yes.
through Miguel, who is
He's my nephew and
Nephew.
all sorts, and he came to live with me a while ago,
yeah.
and that's how I met Raised through him.
Awesome. And now you met Ray's through him. So Ray's impacted and inspired your life as
Yes,
well.
yes,
That's
he
amazing.
has.
You know, it just keeps happening. That's awesome. Just embracing the journey. Ray's is doing a great job, and I'm really proud that he has moved forward.
Yes,
And he's managing to live in that space.
exactly.
Find a
He's-
way to live in that space.
Yeah, he's basically turned his life around and now helps others. I mean, which is amazing, being in a life sentence,
Yeah.
multiple life sentences.
Yes.
I mean, he teaches classes in there.
Mhm.
He has written books. I have other books that we're going to be publishing eventually.
Awesome.
We just haven't gotten to that stage yet.
It's
So
a lot
working
to
on
it.
cover art and stuff like that too.
Yes.
But yeah, and as far as like just the knowledge he has, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
He keeps himself up to date on everything. He reads a lot.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So
he does
you
a lot.
actually wrote a book.
Yes.
You wrote a book, and it's called "Born and Bred to Betray."
Yes.
Now, this has what to do with Raze?
So let me give you a little background. So when I first talked to Raze, Miguel had mentioned to me that he wanted to publish a book. So I was like, all right. I said I could probably help him do that. I could be his contact on the outside and get it all going. He sent me the manuscript and everything. We got it into the computer. We worked with the company to get it published. And then when I decided to go meet him, because I wanted to meet him in person at that point, Miguel always talked about him being this, like, I thought he was like this long bearded, white haired guy, and the way he talked about him.
Right.
And when he came out of came out to meet me on my first visit, he was like this bebop guy, not this long haired god that's up on this pedestal. So it was kind of funny.
Mhm.
And we got to talking, and he was telling me, I had asked him about, how he got in here and everything. And he had told me about the licenses and how the Pinkerton theory and
Mhm.
and that, they didn't have any evidence really
Mhm.
to actually charge him for the murders and stuff. So I kind of like made me wonder, about his case, and so I decided to research him a little more, and I was like, well, I could write something for you and try to get something out there. Maybe that will help to get you out of prison, because that's the whole point, is to
Right.
get him out, because he's not I mean, he's doing good in there,
Yeah.
but he could do so much more out here.
Yeah.
He
for
wants
sure.
to teach, he wants to, educate people. It's not just he wants to get out and that's it. He wants to actually do something
Nice.
and provide the world with his knowledge.
Right.
Whether it be for the doing the IFA stuff, or actually training people on, the history of the world, all that kind of stuff,
Wow. So tell us what Raze was like. I wanted to go. There's a space in this book that I wanted to tap on that I've read, and it's this one. It says, it's in the book. If you can see, it says Fat Joe paperwork. So we had a little. There are no issues here with Fat Joe. We are
No.
just bringing something to the light. Raze wanted an opportunity to express his point of view, because this was brought to social media a couple of years ago, and this is his first opportunity to speak publicly about it while he is still incarcerated with about 14 life sentences and 205 years. And at the end of the day, my take is that we're all human and we all have feelings, and he wanted to express himself. And the Sisteration Room is about re-entry. So yeah, we hope that he gets an opportunity to re-enter society. But he's affected so many lives of those inside and those outside. So we thought it appropriate to give him a space to speak and be heard. And so, of course, we already heard from Miguel and where he is, and how Raze affected his life and moved him forward and helped him turn his life around. So it was at a pivotal time in Miguel's life where he met Raze. And then we have Liz that was brought into the picture through Miguel that met Raze, and he had an enormous impact on her life, to the point where she actually wrote this book to address his life and situation that he had faced. And so when it came out into the public about um, with negative undertones about him actually committing murders, and it was stated in this paperwork, and this paperwork allegedly states that or says that it was spoken when when an average everyday person says something into the air, the impact is not as great as it is when someone that has clout, stature, and authority out here in society. So while the paperwork does say that Fat Joe said these things, we do want to make clear that it is not why Raze is incarcerated, but it did affect him. It did have an impact on him as he is incarcerated. Uh, and so, Liz, we want to briefly talk about your book, and I want us to talk about what Raze was like growing up. So let's
Okay.
talk about this part where we have to.
Okay, so this all didn't come out. It came out while I was doing the book. That's the only reason why I ended up putting it in here, because it came out during me
Wow.
writing the book. It wasn't even anything I knew about until after the fact,
Gotcha.
when I decided to actually write this book. So it kind of like, I was like, oh, well, I'll throw it in there too, seeing that, he's talking about raising that paperwork.
Right.
But it didn't hurt or help Raze by having it come out. It's just that it's just more showing that people are actually putting names out there that they never dealt with, and trying to incarcerate them or put them more, get more involved with their situations. So so I was like, well, I'll put it in there because a lot of people like to hear things that happen. So I was like, but might be a good thing for selling points.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it didn't hurt or help Raze in as far as like being convicted or getting out. So that's why we're just trying to. My book is more about how the government is using people to incarcerate others for things they didn't do. So kind of like the Pinkerton theory.
Like Pinkerton.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as Raze, like growing up, he was born and raised in the South Bronx. At the age of 4, he was put in a foster home, in a group home up in New York, called St. Agatha. His mother was in, excuse me, was institutionalized in a mental hospital. So he and other children in that St. Agatha actually were abused physically, emotionally, sexually.
Gigi, I wanted to bring Gigi to the set because, of course, I spoke to Miguel, and Gigi was really instrumental in getting out a whole portion of it because Miguel gets like emotional about
Yeah.
Raze because Raze had a huge impact on his life, and so that being very significant, Gigi jumped in just the way we do for ours, right? Just how we do, the women do for our men, right? We're going to speak for them. If they can't get it out, we're going to get it out. So now, and I know you've heard many Raze stories. So can you just share with us, how, from your point of view, just listening to Miguel speak about him, tell us how you feel like he positively impacted Miguel and possibly others.
So the way I see it, and saw it for the last couple of years, I would say the last 4 years. I haven't personally met him, of course, but we've talked on the phone. The way he grew up, and the like past trauma and things like that. It's like you don't have guidance when you're growing up, and you don't have anyone there to tell you shouldn't do this. This isn't right. So once he met Raze, he finally saw someone that was giving him positive advice, positive thinking. Like, I see what, I've been there. Society makes it really hard for any human to kind of survive in this world. So coming from at a later time in your life, trying to do the things that you probably were, most people start doing at a teenage years or you're in your 20s.
Right.
It's a little bit more stressful in your 30s and in your 40s because then you start thinking, I should have already been here. So you set depression back and it's like, well, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? So not everyone is perfect, but at least he gave everyone.
We've got a call from none other than possibly.
This call is from a federal prison. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from Jose Moyet. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. To accept this call, press 5. To block, you may begin speaking now.
Raze, how are you? I'm sitting here now with Miguel, and we've got Gigi next to us, and we're about to bring Liz up to the stage in a minute.
Okay. So listen, I want to finish what I was speaking about. Do I got time to get in there?
Let's get it.
Okay, listen, what I will say is this. I don't want a lot of this exposure to be about just that joke. It's about what's going on in this federal system. It's about how people are getting locked up without no physical evidence against them. That all they need is a person's word of mouth, which is taken as evidence. Now, the Pinkerton theory of liability is by two brothers. The case is old. It's a 1946 case, and it's about two brothers. One Walter Pinkerton and his other brother Edgar, I think, or something like that. And while one was in prison, the other one was out there. I think he was bootlegging, if I come right in that case. He was bootlegging. So when they convicted them, even though one of the brothers wasn't there, he got convicted not only of the conspiracy, but got convicted of the physical act. Okay, so now when we go to trial, right? When we go to trial, they say our Constitution guarantees us that we should be tried by a jury of our peers, that we got be found guilty of every element within the case of the charges against us, right? So now what happened is during the judge's hearing, he said, well, just because a person is dead doesn't mean that he's found guilty, or just because a person conspired doesn't necessarily mean he's guilty. Then he reads some other stuff, blah, 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 blah. Then he goes and says, however, there's another way to find them guilty. You can find them guilty of the Pinkerton theory of liability, which means this, that they don't even have to be there, and they still be held foreseeable for the crimes they co-defendant committed.
Wow. That speaks largely to mass incarceration.
Exactly. Now nobody knows about this because who in society knows about this? Hell, you got dudes here in the federal system that don't like they keep saying, I don't understand, but how can they find you guilty? 30 years in prison, I still don't understand either. You understand? So now you take these people, you get an assortment of people to testify that they committed a crime. Now you take a person like Louis Quiones and Liz Doyle brought him out in the book. You take a guy like Louis Quiones, aka Polo. He admits to the government that he committed 10 murders. 10 murders. This is not movie that 10 murders and conspiracy to murder. 10 actual murders. But 5 of those murders is only for the conspiracy. Because he went and killed 2 brothers at a party, went and killed a chick, went and killed a dude that he was beefing with. And yet he still gets time served. So now 5 of those murders are conspiracy with us, and those other 5 murders he did and he still was released. You got
This call is from a federal prison.
a person like Robert Corona who testifies to about 8 murders, not including attempts and conspiracy. 8 murders. One of the murders he committed was way before he even knew me. He went and robbed a restaurant owner, killed him. Oh, yeah, he still gets time served.
Wow.
Then you take a guy like James Abizo, but he has nothing to do with my case. He's off another case out of the CSC, out of the Bronx, out of the South Bronx. And he's there to testify against one of my co-defendants. Me and him never met, never spoke or nothing. And he got numerous murders, he got torture, he got kidnapping, but worse, he got rape. We're not allowed to bring this out. He's released back in time served. Goes to Arkansas and gets 57 months on another case. Comes back to prison and is released while we still sitting there.
Wow.
Do you understand? You see this?
Yeah. And
So now you saying, okay, well, we put these guys to testify because, they got to put away the architect who created. Hold on. These people got more crimes than I got. I have not been charged, but I got a life sentence for crack as well. I never sold crack. But you got a guy there who says, oh yeah, I supplied him with crack. I never sold crack in my life. I was a heroin dealer. I did sell drugs. You know what I'm saying? I was the leader of the Nasty Boy organization. You know what I'm saying? But I never sold crack. But yet I got charged with it. Why? Because at the time, crack was a life, 50 grams of crack was a life sentence.
wow.
Yes. So this is what I want to bring out there because you got me, my brother, and 2 of my co-defendants still riding away here. Now, 2 of my co-defendants, because they had different judges, they gave back their life sentence on the Pinkerton theory because now the judge said, well, listen, they got found guilty of Pinkerton, so we don't know what they got found guilty of. What was they actually? So under the Davis that was just released, the 924Cs, they said that conspiracy to murder is not a crime of violence. Now, the government agrees. They concede. They say, yeah, it's true. But Mujay got actual murders. No, I don't. But because I got charged with the Pinkerton theory of liability, I got those murders that I didn't even do. So you take a person, a non-violent drug dealer, right? And then you get a person who commits a murder, right? And blames the non-violent drug dealer. Now he goes to jail, and now he goes to jail for a violent crime. You see this?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the system. But the people out there don't know what's going on in the feds. Half the people don't know. The other half don't care because they say, well, they have to be guilty of something anyway.
That's right. That's what society says.
And that's what society is. And this is what we get hit with what is known as kitchen sink indictments. You hit them with all this stuff, and the jury's going to say, well, he has to be guilty of something. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they did to us.
Oh.
So now you took these dudes that are murderers and killers, torturers and rapists, you put them back in the streets, committing more crimes, and they come back to prison and they're released again. Why? Because they already know the secret to getting out of prison, which is giving up other people.
Yeah.
So
and the feds, that's just what it is.
And that's just what it is.
Look, it's called snitch and go.
And people don't care. When I was in the state prison, A1 felony, 2 ounces of cocaine, you get 30 to life. So, they voted it in, boom. So now you got this one lady, she starts protesting against that whole, and she admits that she put it in there. But what happens is now her son got caught with 2 ounces and got 30 to life, and now she want to oppose this. Do you see this? Nobody cares unless it happens to them.
Right, that's right.
This is the same thing that happens in 1933 Nazi Germany. Nobody cared about nobody because it wasn't happening to us.
What's that lady you were talking about? What's her name?
The Rockefeller law. I can't remember it off the hand. I'm trying to find this for you. I had read this when I was in the state, and I was like, wow, look at this. But it's really not that hard. It'd be easy to find out. But so now these people went back home. They all out there. They still committing crimes and out there. Well, I'm in here, and I had better myself.
Right.
I educated myself. I started teaching classes. This is how I met Miguel and a lot of people. In fact, this is how I met Liz and Gigi that's there, because through Miguel and men like him who used to come to the class.
Wow.
So, I teach Orisha worship, showing like the elemental forces. I teach metaphysics because, metaphysics is broad, and I like to teach the people that you have to learn how to tap into your own divinity.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I teach, the positivity stuff, but I'm still
You met him at a point where it was pivotal in your life? Is that it?
Very much so.
So you were kind of ready for a change when you met Raze.
Very much so.
Say that?
Yeah, breath of fresh air, and just found out what a man was. Standing on what you believe. Treating people with respect, respecting yourself more than anything, and having morals and values, and the things that he did in prison with the people, helping people with their cases, books that he had wrote.
He wrote.
Liz wrote that one. He wrote this one, but he wrote many other
The
books.
History of the Gods and the Subjugation of Humanity.
Great book. Breaks down a lot of.
Are you scheduled for parole at any point in time soon?
I'm not, because I'm not under the old law. I'm under the new law. I got 2255 that's in the Court of Appeals right now. My judge, even though she sat on it, even though she says she tried to say that I had mandatory life. I didn't have mandatory life, and she gave me back my 2255, but then she sat on it for 2 years and just denied it, saying, well, I'm not going to give it to him anyway. And so now the Court of Appeals is up in the Court of Appeals. I'm just waiting. I'm about to file a compassionate release, but unfortunately, we don't have no parole.
Right.
If feds still have parole, the only ones that parole are the old timers, and they keep hitting them dudes who's been in prison 30-something years because they know that if they release them, there's no more jobs for them.
Right. I forgot about the federal thing, but yeah, you're right. There's no parole in federal.
Yeah. So these places don't want to release people because it's a business.
Yeah, it's definitely a business. Well, you keep fighting. You got to keep fighting, and I know you are. And you're in there with someone we know that's new. He's a friend of the Sisteration Room, Greg G. So yeah, we want to give him a shout out. Greg Milton, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and
what he deals with?
He's the one that told me to. I think he's how we connected each other. We connected, I believe.
Oh, you talking about Gregory Milton? Yeah, Gregory Milton.
Yeah.
He's a good brother. I met him back in 2001, and actually, he saved my life in the sense that I was still a knucklehead, and I had to go into the hole, and I didn't have time to do my 2255. And what saved me was that the World Trade Center happened. So what he did was he did it for me, and he backed it up, backdated it. Yes, good, beautiful brother. We need him out of prison too. Yeah. Listen, Cookie, this is the second beat. It's hanging out. I love all you guys. I want to thank you for giving me this time to talk and express myself.
Some things you just have, and that's not. It's not, especially in our community. It's not shame on you. It's great, but Nobody was around to teach him what to do with those leadership skills.
Right.
And I want to thank you guys for coming. Thanks for sharing
you.
Ray's story. And we're about peace and love in the Sisteration Room, and that's how the story was brought to us. And we want to continue forward in that space. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate
You're very
you.
welcome, and we
Thank you,
appreciate
Miguel.
everything you're doing, because
Yeah, thank
hopefully this will help.
Yes,
And everything,
hopefully.
all your accomplishments.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Peace and blessings. Embrace the journey.
Yeah.
We're out.